Welcome to the Rabbit Hole Show with Charlie Armour and Angie McLean. Join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter at Studio Burrow.
All right, Charlie, so it is April 22nd, Wednesday. We're joined again with another guest, JJ Whitehead. How's it going?
Hello.
How you doing? How's your morning been?
It's been slow. This is a slower morning than most. We had an earthquake last night in Los Angeles, and I'm dealing with a situation back home in Nova Scotia in Eastern Canada, so I've had a lot of news to watch. So between the earthquake last night and watching the Canadian national news this morning, as you can probably assume, I've been talking to my mom frequently.
Yeah.
So,
I didn't even realize that you guys had an earthquake this morning or last night. You said.
Yeah, it wasn't a big earthquake, but I did kind of. I don't know. It was shortly after midnight. It was not big, but it shook the room. I actually found it kind of fun, but.
Some entertainment, eh?
Well, it was a bit. I mean, about. I don't know, when I first moved to LA 5 years ago, I was in a proper earthquake that my bed literally slid across my apartment.
Oh my god!
It was going everywhere, and I had like a ceiling fan up in the roof that was just out of control. So I was sliding on this bed across the floor while looking up at a ceiling fan that I thought could come loose at any moment. So getting ready to, and that went on for a good, it felt like 12 to 15 seconds. It was a long time. Whereas last night, nothing was sliding. It was just, there was just some vibes for probably about 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Which made me sit up in bed and go, whoa. But what I forgot was, I found it entertaining. So on social media, even though I broke a moratorium on social media because of the Nova Scotia incident, but I just wanted to reach out and kind of see and just go earthquake, just whatever, reaching out for some human contact in this situation. And I forgot that of course my mother's watching everything, and my Nova Scotian mother is obviously very on edge right now. So as
it would be.
So I haven't slept solidly much because I've been trying to relax her.
Yeah.
So what do you as a because you do stand up, what do you do in the meantime while you're isolated? How do you I don't know. What's your daily plan?
There's plenty of. Oh, right. Well, there's plenty of work. You got to be a man of many hats if you're gonna do the LA thing as well. Nobody is just one skill here. Of course, I was a writer. I wrote on the Jim Jeffries show for the last 3 seasons. So there's, so we're writing, we're keeping busy, doing what we can. I'm putting together an album right now as well of recordings from before this situation occurred. So, so if anything, I've got longer work days currently.
Oh, wow.
So it's not hard to keep busy. I mean, I think just like every comedian, we all miss the live performances.
Yeah.
Right now, but there's a lot of passion projects that we can get done if we have some initiative.
So you don't do Skype audience stuff?
That's not my bag, but I do see that.
Who does that?
I do notice there's been a few, and I've had a few comedy clubs request that I do something, but I don't. I feel like it makes me feel bad, but I feel like even what they're requesting feels above my capabilities, because they're like, a couple comedy clubs were like, can you just get a 3-minute routine together and stand in the middle of your living room and record it. And I'm just like, oh, this sounds like a lot of effort. And and some comedians are calling me joyfully, going, oh, it's so much fun, you got to do it, it's great. Then they'll put it into a virtual reality thing on the screen, and it'll look like you're in their club. And I'm like, I just trying to do 3 minutes without any audience feedback is surreal for a start. You just have to be confident that a joke is landing. meanwhile, on the other side of the computer, you might just have 400 people just with confused looks on their face.
Yeah, there's no feedback at all.
No feedback. You don't know.
Plus you get a delayed laugh, wouldn't you? You get like a sort of delayed laugh. Maybe the signal go off.
Would you? I don't even see that's and that's the more important point. So it's not just the whole thing of doing 3 minutes, but the fact that I have to hit record and stand in my. I didn't go into stand-up comedy because I was really technically sufficient or efficient. I mean, technically, I'm not verbally sufficient. I'm not a very technically efficient. So it's hard enough to I don't have I only have stand-up on my YouTube channel and stuff like that. I'm not I've never learned how to be a talk into the camera kind of guy. So
you're not going to read books then.
No, I'm not reading books for children or anything like that. I'm very much trying to keep busy with other things, with the same things that I was doing before the virus, which is just basically trying to write scripts and write jokes and put together a stand-up album.
Oh wow, I like that.
Cool. Yeah, it should be like I would find that so awkward, like just standing in your living room, kind of like recording yourself. I watched the get what it's called. It was where a bunch of really famous artists performed from their house, and it was like a 4-hour live stream. Anyway.
Yeah, is that the Alone Together or whatever?
Yeah. What? Anyway, I forget what it's called. But
and everybody, and you mean musicians, right?
Yeah, musicians.
Which must be awesome. I mean, this is going to be you know what? This is a point that's come up pretty much every podcast that I've done in this situation. But I'm like, music. I feel music is more amazing. I wish I'd have known this when I was small, because I always dreamt about being a comedian. I don't think I realized how many ways there are to misinterpret a comedy joke or a comedy performance. And yet music is so beautiful because there are so many ways to interpret music in a good way. There's so many great people walk away from the same song with multiple interpretations.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing. And it can even be a song about something horrible or morbid. And so that's why, I mean, hands down, I don't think there's ever been a debate, but hands down, music is stronger than comedy, even though comedy is my art form. Yeah. But it's the realization that no matter what, if a musician pours his heart out, people can interpret it so many ways and live through it. And when a comedian pours his heart out, and comedians do, when a comedian delivers a routine, we are pouring our souls into this a sarcastic or a satirical point of view and stuff.
Exactly.
And yet there's always a danger with stand-up comedy that somebody will interpret offense out of it and take you to task for it sometimes and just get offended. Like you did that joke about Trix cereal, and my sister was allergic to Trix cereal when she was a kid and she was hospitalized, so screw you. How dare you bring Trix cereal back in the whatever. And you're just left going, oh geez, you can't please everybody.
I know. What is it like with comedy now? Because you really got to that. It's like you're stepping on eggshells. So how can you, please?
You just have to let those go, and you have to remember that there are a less motivated, bigger crowd of people that enjoy the arts and enjoy entertainment. And the people who are angry, I mean, things offend me as well. Things make me angry and offend me. But before I start tapping on the keys or calling people out, I just take a deep breath and go, all right. It doesn't mean that this person intended to offend me. It just means that joke or that performance wasn't for me.
Exactly.
And that's what you have to do. And then you just have to realize and respect that there are people who don't do that yet. There are people that don't have that level of, oh, okay, it's not for me to stop this person or ruin this person's life because they offended me. It's for me to, move on and find the artist that I do like.
Yeah.
But, so that's it. Just gotta not let it get to you. I think stand-up comedians are generally pretty good at that. We learn early on that if an audience hates you, you don't have to hate them back. You just have to remember that you don't have to see them again. So
I know. So maybe they like coming along just to heckle you.
Yeah, I was about to say that. What was the worst ever? Have you ever had like a really bad experience with a heckler? Or?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years. I mean, less and less now. I think I had bad experiences when I was a younger comic.
Yeah.
Who maybe go to the mat for my opinion or my joke or.
Mm-hmm.
And now I think I can laugh it off or move on, and it doesn't give the heckler the power. I like think of a simple thing like if somebody heckled a 20-year-old comedian me with your shit.
Yeah.
When I was just a simple heckle, like to break that down, just a simple like your shit. I would say in a comic in his 20s. The less experienced, they often go, "No, fuck you! I'm not shit. I'm not shit. Why would you say that? Why did you ruin my gig just yelling I'm shit?" That's what happens to a younger comedian.
Exactly.
And then when a comedian's in the middle of his career, when he learns a few tricks, by the time he's in his early 30s, maybe late 20s if he's really good, he learns the trick of when they go, "You're shit." He learns to go, "I'm shit. What? Why? Why do you feel that I'm shit? Come on." And then you engage that heckler, and usually they fail themselves by trying to explain why you're shit. And then once you get to be an older comedian, which I guess, I'm on the verge. Mm-hmm. I'm on 2 decades in the business now. And I've just learned to go, if somebody yells out "your shit," I've learned to go, "Yeah, mate. Yes, I am shit. Absolutely shit. Look,
I embrace it."
and then you're generally okay. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly. Definitely.
Yeah. Growing into your job. Of course I'm shit. Why else would I rather stand in front of strangers and tell jokes for a living?
Yeah.
If I wasn't shit, I'd probably be a fireman or a police officer.
Yeah. So have you ever had like a joke where literally like it just ended very awkwardly, I guess, like just like
yeah, completely.
Yeah, I like assume it's just part of being a comedian. That
I mean, it's also part of maybe sometimes you don't convey the point properly. You miss out on something. Like sometimes people's offense is warranted.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, not a lashing out offense, but just an audience going, groaning at you all as one, and then in your mind you end up going over what did I do wrong there, and then probably about 10 seconds later you realize, oh, I forgot the middle of the setup. I just skipped straight to, I said the offensive thing and didn't comment, and then I went straight to a punchline, and so anyway, you end up breaking it down usually, and you can realize why something went wrong. I mean, yeah, it happens, but like I said before, you just gotta suck it up sometimes and move on.
What makes a comedian now? How did you start? Like, you thinking, oh, you know what, I'm funny, I'm going to be a comedian one day.
I don't know. Well, for me, it was, I mean, I didn't feel that way. I was actually terrified. Because I was never a class clown or anything. I'm quite a reserved, like I'm off stage. I'm more introverted than all of my friends. In fact, all my friends now, my professional friends, like my comedian friends, are a bit louder in a room, off stage than I ever was. So I don't know. I think when I was a kid, I saw Eddie Murphy. I think Eddie Murphy blew my mind. Watching Raw and Delirious and Saturday Night Live, and I think my brother and I growing up in Nova Scotia, we didn't have a lot of nightlife. Also we were kids, so we played. We were playing little league sports and stuff. But to us, when we would turn on, basically at 5 o'clock every day on one of our terrestrial channels, we would get a TV show called Comedy at Club 54. Mm-hmm. And it would usually be followed by repeats of it Just for Laughs, which for us, I mean, even our closest city, Halifax, didn't have a comedy club. They do now. They started. Actually, my career started at Nova Scotia. Still didn't have a comedy club. That's why I started in Scotland. So I moved to Scotland. Yeah, I moved to Scotland in '99 and found that they had a comedy club there. And that's where I started, at the Stand Comedy Club in Edinburgh, because it blew my mind so much. I was like, oh, here it is. This is a thing. This is the thing that me and my brother grew up talking about in our basement as just some foreign thing, because it didn't exist in Nova Scotia. And we were like, I felt this is an opportunity for me. And that's when I went into the Stand, and that's where I started comedy. So that's why I got to do it. I don't remember ever thinking in my life that I am funny and I want to do it. I thought this feels like a calling. I feel like I can do this because it requires a certain amount of spontaneity and sarcasm. And I was like, I think I might be made for this. So it was fun to all of a sudden see a comedy club in a city, foreign city that I was living in. So that's how I did.
Yeah. How was it in Scotland, like the comedy scene there?
It's awesome. I mean, that is I mean, where are you based, Charlie? Where do you live?
I'm London.
London. Which I love London as well. Of course, I lived in London for 9 years, but off and on. So I 3 years in Edinburgh, then down to London for another 3 years, then up to Manchester for 4 years, and then back to London for the rest of my British comedy career. And the Stand Comedy Club in Scotland is by far the top tier of comedy in Britain. I would say you got your Glee clubs. The Glee Club in Birmingham is outstanding. The Stand comedy clubs up north. There's one in Nottingham and in Edinburgh and Glasgow. They might have even expanded and I don't know, but they're great as well. And then
did you learn the accent in Scotland?
I'm not great at accents. I'll tell you that. I don't know. We've got our own accent in Nova Scotia that we never. I don't think we've got a static enough accent to understand how to absorb other accents.
Yeah,
we have so many as well.
That's like island accent.
Yeah, island. Yeah.
Yeah, it takes some research. It takes some practice. I could probably nail a line if somebody fed me a line and gave me 2 days.
2 days.
So you said that there was, I guess not really recently, but since you left Canada, Halifax got their own comedy club. Have you returned to Halifax and performed there, or?
Yeah, I sure have. There's a club. Yeah, it's a Yuck Yucks.
Okay.
And I think there is a couple of independent clubs as well. There's like a bar. I can't quote me on this. I want to say Bad Robot, but I think that might be out of affection for Joss Whedon. It might be called Good Robot. I mean, there's a couple breweries now in Halifax. I think there's a small community of stand-up comedians, and I do see them when I'm home if I do a show. And so the art form is a bit stronger. And there's a Yuck Yucks club. So while I was living in Britain, if I came home to Canada to do shows, it was usually for the Yuck Yucks
cool
chain, which they had I don't know. In the early 2000s, they had, or mid 2000s, or sorry, my first trip home I think was 2007.
Yeah.
And I remember there was like a few on the East Coast. I did Newfoundland and stuff like that. And of course, I Calgary and Edmonton and Vancouver. My last album was recorded in Calgary because I love that audience is always up for a great laugh.
Yeah.
So that's where I recorded my album Full Disclosure, which is fun. I mean, I because we're putting together an album right now.
Yeah.
I've been listening. Me and my producer were listening to some of Full Disclosure last night because we're actually we're gonna have a collection of B-sides as well on this album since we're all in lockdown. We're all hidden away in our apartments. So I'm because I wanted to record an album during this time period and now I can't. So instead, we're going to put together a collection of all the recordings that I've taken in the last couple of years around the world. So there'll be a little bit from England. There'll be a little bit from like Sweden we got on the docket. And we were just listening to Calgary. We were listening to that audience in Calgary. And if you've heard my last album, they are a fantastic audience in Calgary. I don't know what it is about them, what's in their water, but they put a lot of power into a performance.
Awesome.
Yeah, they're good.
I've never been to like past Ontario. That's the farthest I've gone in Canada. But I would love to go past that.
Look at you, and you're in PEI, are you?
Yeah, yeah.
And is there a club in? I think I did a. I did do a show.
I don't know if there is.
I think, but I don't think you don't have a purpose-built comedy club, do you?
No,
we're gonna clear out the restaurant for the night. And
pretty much. We have we have what they call the Guild. That's kind of like a theater, but it houses some comedy shows in it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's
I think it's getting stronger. I mean, it'll be the British are where it's really at. The British have the real model of stand-up comedy in my mind. Anyway, I think they're light years ahead of both the Americans and Canadians in terms of live stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
But I think that's part. Well, there's a whole bunch of reasons. I mean, the British love a drink indoors, and they love a random social situation around that drink. They also approach their stand-up comedy with breaks, so they'll have, because they're not addicted to stand-up comedy. They're addicted to alcohol, but they love stand-up comedy. So the British determined. I mean, when I showed up in the late '90s, I mean, the system was already in place. The houses are packed. Stand-up comedy is hugely popular, and they have breaks. So they'll have a comedian for 20 minutes, then they'll all go to the bar, have a drink, they'll discuss the comedian, and they'll be back for another 20 minutes. Whereas in North America, there's something. The North American capitalism kind of model took over, and for some reason, maybe because of smoking or something in the 90s, a lot of promoters had this attitude of like, no, we just do a 45 to 80-minute show straight through.
Gosh.
The headliner is 45 minutes. So we're doing a 90-minute show straight through, no breaks, because we'll lose people, because people won't come back. They have this attitude.
Yeah.
So we'll go straight through, and we'll have table service. So we have waitresses walking around, dropping checks or drinks while comedians are trying to hit punchlines. Not as good system, but I think we still haven't learned that yet. I think North America still hasn't learned that yet. They still think approaching it like it's a movie and everybody sit down and shut up and talk to your waitress.
Yeah, go.
That's
go all the way through and finish.
Yeah, so it's a bit So for that reason, it's a bit stronger. But I mean, you got quite the adventure waiting for you if you haven't. You haven't left the Maritimes yet.
Well, I have I have left Canada though. I've traveled to Atlantic City in New Jersey, and so we drove. So we went through quite a few states to get there. I think 7. I think is what.
That sounds. Possibly about right.
Something like that. Anyway. So I've been to more states than I have provinces in Canada.
Yeah. Well,
Which,
you know what?
yeah.
You owe it to yourself.
Yeah. Like, and then
it's actually, you know, as somebody who's been across Canada multiple times, because my father's military. So my father was a military man, so we used to get posted every 3 or 4 years. And when we did the posting, so we get posted from Chilliwack, BC, or you know, Victoria, BC, or back to Shearwater, Nova Scotia, or Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia. So whenever he got posted, that was also our family vacation. Was the drive across Canada. So we combined it. We combined the moving with the holiday. So, and it's gorgeous. I mean, you're missing it. I don't know how old you are. Get
23.
Get out there and see your country, man. 23. Well, it's the right time. It's the right time for you.
Well, no, right now is not the right time. I can't leave my couch.
You can just social distance your ass all the way across Canada in your car.
I can buy like one of those cheap VR goggles and sit in my couch and go. So I like what do you say in Canada would have, like you said, BC, was it that, or was the best show, or?
Oh well, I recorded my album in Calgary. My last album was recorded in Calgary, and that was a great show. Oh no, I mean the crowds are great everywhere. There's a club in Victoria, British Columbia, called Hecklers, that I absolutely love, and it's evolved. It was called Hecklers. It's an interesting one. It's in Victoria, British Columbia. It was actually called Hecklers because it was a sports bar, and the idea was everybody come here. You know, typical sports bar, and we're gonna call it Hecklers because we want you to put some energy in it, yell at the TV when your team scores. You know, we want that vibrant sports bar vibe. That's use vibrant. We want that vibrant vibe. So that was generally where Hecklers came from. But then I mean, I might not get this completely accurate, but I think they started with one night. They started comedy on like a Monday. Or something, and then it was popular, and it evolved to 2 nights a week, and then all of a sudden it got so popular, like let's do it 3 nights a week, and then it just evolved into now it's a weekend long. The comedy is more important than the sports, the comedy shows, and it is great. They cultivated an audience that knows what they want. They know what they're going to get, and they've got packed houses all the time. And I mean, there's clubs like that all across Canada, of course. But yeah, it's amazing the difference when you get a great nurtured Canadian audience that packs the house because they know they're going to get a great comedy show. You know.
Cool. Yeah.
In London, you went to London. Did you enjoy it there? Because you've been here for how long?
I love London. I mean, when I first moved, so I started comedy in Scotland, and then I moved to London. So in 2000. Or 2001, I guess, I showed up in London, and we lived out Baker's Arms out in Walthamstow.
Oh, okay, yes.
Me and 2 other comedians, me and a guy called Dougie Dunlop, who's a fantastic Scottish comedian. He's the one that I moved down with. He and I were having a great time in Scotland, and we thought, let's take this show to London. So it was me and Dougie Dunlop and a fantastic Australian comedian called Steve Hughes. Mm-hmm. So the 3 of us lived in Baker's Arms there, Walthamstow, and then we were joined by another Australian comedian, lesser known, but good luck to him. His name is Jim Jeffries. So Jim rocked up, and then and we were actually in the middle of looking for a new place to live. Oh. And we were all kind of struggling comics, and we decided that we couldn't afford to live in London anymore because we hadn't, because we're working our butts off, and we were traveling all over Britain. And we found it weird. So Jim Jeffries called us from Manchester. He was in Manchester working for the weekend, and he just went, "Hey, fellas, what do you think of how about we stop looking for a home in London and we move to Manchester?" So Steve Hughes and myself, we were on board. Dougie Dunlop stayed behind. He stayed based in London, and the 3 of us moved to Manchester. So me and Jim and Steve, we lived up in Moss, just outside of Moss Side. We lived in Whalley Range in Manchester.
Oh wow!
And I mean, the timing was great because we moved to Manchester just when the Comedy Store expanded to Manchester. They opened a Comedy Store in the Deansgate Locks, and they opened a Comedy Store in Leeds as well, which is now gone. But for the three of us, because we were relatively, I mean, Steve Hughes was a bit more established, but Jim and I were newish. You know, we were young. We were the young bucks.
Young bucks, yeah.
It was a great move for us in Manchester because not only could we afford the rent, we could afford the rent. We even managed to like buy cars for the first time and like things like that. But also we were the on-call guys for the Comedy Store in Leeds and Manchester. So whenever there was a veteran comedian who dropped out or couldn't make it or couldn't get out of the London traffic to make it to Manchester in time, I feel that Jim and I were nicely positioned to capitalize on that. So so we spent 3 or 4 years up there, and then we really started to make names for ourselves, and that's when it came time to I moved back down to London. So did Jim for a brief moment, and then Jim hit it huge and moved here to Los Angeles. He's probably been here for 10 years now, and
wow.
and then I moved over here to join him about 4 years ago. Yeah.
Would you ever go back to London? Do you reckon?
I would consider it.
Yeah.
I mean, I did love it. I was very much in love with London. Of course, for that whole. I didn't see myself moving. If it wasn't for my friend, who obviously hit it so big in Los Angeles, so big in America. And as I was talking with him, there was a point. Before I had the visa process going, I started the process around the Olympics in London. I lived in London for the Olympics, of course, and that was awesome, to live in the East End and host my parents. My parents came over from Nova Scotia. Oh, wow. We went and saw, field hockey and stuff like that, and the rowing, which was great. So I loved my time in London. There was just a certain point, I think, actually, Jim Jeffries is 100% responsible for snapping me out of it because I think I was complaining about headlining the clubs all around Britain, which is a stupid thing to complain about. But I was obviously complaining because...
How dare you?
If I remember correctly, I told him, I said, I'm off to headline the Glee Club in Birmingham this weekend. And Jim said to me, he goes, oh, I missed that club. That's so awesome. Oh, you're going to have so much fun. And then I said, oh, I'm sick of it, man. This is my third time doing it this year. It's like, I was complaining about something that it's an absolute privilege to do for the British people. And that's actually when Jim went, hey, something's wrong with you. Maybe you should come to America. Maybe you come to America and inject yourself with some.
Your head's too big now, damn it.
With some new energy and stuff. So I did, and that's that. But if somebody called me from London and said, come back here and do something amazing, of course I'd be back.
What about Liverpool? Would you ever go there? Because there seems to be a lot over there as well in Liverpool. I
don't know what the comedy scene is in Liverpool anymore, but they used to have some fantastic clubs. Actually, they do have a great club now. They got the new hottest club in Britain. It's called Hot Water Comedy, which I have never performed at. I've never done, but I've heard so much about them. But in my day, they had the Rawhide, the Liverpool Rawhide, and it was in the Prince's Theatre, as that was called there. And, it was great. So the scene was fantastic. I mean, that's one of the things of living in Manchester, because if you live in Manchester, of course, you can hit Leeds, Warrington, Liverpool. You're working every weekend, and you're working every weekday. You're busy. So yeah, I liked it enough.
What about? Did you ever see any football games?
Yeah, sure, of course I did, man. I saw in my time in Edinburgh, I saw a derby between Hearts and Hibs. which was insane. I mean, Dougie Dunlop must have dragged me into a couple of those, which was crazy. I even saw, so I can't remember who was the underdog when it was Hearts and Hibs, but somebody won who hadn't won the Derby for quite some time, and the fans all raided the pitch. And they were going crazy. And I just remember watching security guards initially linking arms and then slowly some of them losing the will, which just cracked me up. And then, of course, I mean, who else have I seen? We saw we lived in Baker's Arms in East London. So I saw the Leyton Orient a couple times. I've seen Everton. Yeah, man.
Oh, wow.
Oh, and actually, Jim Jeffries is a big fan of Fulham Football Club, so he took my father and I to see Fulham play once down at Craven Cottage, which was great. Although it was a weird one because my father spent the whole time complaining, just being Canadian, being the Canadian that he is.
This isn't hockey.
Well, he was complaining. Yeah, this is exactly it, though. He was complaining all the way there, going, I can't believe we're going all the way here to watch a soccer game kind of thing, and we're trying to build him up. I think he still had a good experience, but of course, you couldn't drink in the stands. I think he was bummed about that. And then the score was 0-0. So it was a hard one to sell to my dad because he left the game feeling vindicated, going, see, what a 0-0. What a silly game.
Somebody has to win.
The most exciting game, the most exciting 0-0 in English football, probably.
Well, I mean, I know I lived there long enough to know that it can happen, but I do wish you had a little bit more, whatever. I mean, I think it's a lovely game, but it is weird.
It does depend on the game, though. If you went saw Liverpool versus Manchester United, maybe that would be different.
Yeah, I mean, we went and saw Man City a couple times when we were in Manchester as well.
Or Man United.
Well, I don't think we could. Well, I don't know if we could afford Man United at the time. Don't forget, this is pre-2010. Man City wasn't even Man City wasn't good.
No.
So that was the easy team for. It's easier when you're of lower income to follow the underdog.
I know. I'm a Liverpool fan. I've only been to 2 games, and I'm 38 years old. So it's like,
yeah. Wow. So I mean, I still have that spirit about myself now. I still like the underdog. I'm not a fan. I wouldn't be. Weirdly enough, I would still like Man City, even though they've changed. But I like them because back in the day, we liked them. But I mean, this does it for me in all sports. I don't like the Toronto Maple Leafs in hockey. They're my least favorite team because they're always the rich ones that taunt everybody. I always found living in London particularly, you have to stay up till 3 a.m. to get your hockey highlights. And when you do, it's always 2 minutes of Maple Leafs highlights, but then 30 seconds of every other Canadian team. And that kind of stuff gets under my skin. So I've always been that kind of guy. I like the underdog. I don't like the New York Yankees. I would rather the New York Mets. Same thing. All of them. If they're the smaller, the smaller, not smaller market obviously, but just the underdogs. I've always been a fan. Yeah. So that's how Man City showed up on my radar back in the day.
Cool.
You were going about the fans raiding the pitch, but in hockey, there's players that fight each other now and then.
Yeah,
of course.
They have a 1-on-1.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
that's amazing for me. That's like, what? What's going on?
It's a beautiful thing.
It's a wonderful thing.
It is.
Where you can.
It is.
I mean, when you've got proper men traveling at, it's the second or third fastest game in the world. I mean, it's probably the fastest team sport in the world. Yeah. I know that a ball travels faster in the game of highlight. But other than that, I think you got these men with weapons on their feet. They're skating. You go with weapons in their hands. And sometimes, I mean, the fact is, you have a huge spectrum of talent, and your very talented players can catch the attention of people on the other team that want to hurt them, and the only way to settle them down is to maybe fight it out.
Beat the snot out of them.
Yeah. Punch them in the face. It's only fair. I wish they would do that in football sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it would be. I would not sponsor anything, but I'd be all for. Once again, I want to be clear. Football, plenty, fine. It's a beautiful game and everything, but you should have a full contact football. Imagine what that would be like if you were just allowed to hit people. I'm not saying punching, but just if
maybe
you added
one
a bit
punch. At one punch, maybe, yeah.
Well, okay. Well, maybe if there was consequences, just like in hockey. So if it does come to fists, then you have to leave the pitch for 10 minutes.
So what are the rules?
And feel shame, as they say in the great hockey movie Slapshot. You go out to the penalty box and you feel shame. You'll sit there. You'll feel shame. You think, and then you're back. Then you come back. Maybe it would change the sport of football, but maybe they could have a bit of that.
I think you'd lose more players at the end. I don't know, but I would like to see it.
I don't know. You get you ever play a musical instrument or something? Your body gets used to it. Your fingers blister, and eventually you're okay.
Yeah.
So I think it's the thing. I think it's the same thing for hardened athletes. I think you're not going to catch them off guard. You punch somebody like me, I'll be out of commission. I'll be out of commission for 24 hours. But
I'm guessing you like violent sports.
Well, I mean, sports are inherently violent, but I will tell you this. I remember I played soccer. Because of course it was Canada, so it was called soccer. But when I was younger, those were I did hockey and soccer. Mm-hmm. And I do remember when I transitioned I left soccer when I was about 13, and that's when I started playing basketball. I played college basketball, so that's when I started. And Michael Jordan made me just fall. I was just like, what was this game? And I remember being 13. I remember I didn't enjoy heading the soccer ball. I remember even that. I was like, this hurts a bit. This is annoying. And there you go. I was playing hockey at the time, and I was taking, I would take hits and all other things, but I just found it weird. And I mean, it is Nova Scotia, so who knows? Maybe the balls were made of rock, but I just remember going, a player has to get used to that. And then in Britain, I guess you guys probably have no problem. You probably have 6-year-olds that are just bashing their heads off.
They're not allowed now. In schools, they're not allowed to head the ball. So,
what?
Yeah.
What?
I know.
Oh, well. Oh, God. That's part of the game.
I know. You would have loved it, though, because you couldn't head the ball back then.
Yeah, well, that's just it. There's elements of sport that you got to get used to. If you're playing volleyball, you develop a soft touch, and if you play other games, you got to develop a hard touch. It's just, that's the way it is.
I know, kids are just turning into wimps now, I think. They need a bit of...
Yeah, well, especially if you guys want to, isn't it an England issue that you need to compete on an international level? So it's going to be tough if your kids aren't even allowed to learn how to headbutt, I called it. If you're not allowed to learn how to head a ball properly while in whatever, France and Sweden and stuff there. I don't know. That's that sounds like a strange...
See, I used to play football on sticks because I'm got a disability, so I used to use sticks to play football, and I used to whack people. Then the ball.
Right.
Yeah. Well, if they annoyed me, I got them because they bullied this one kid, and I was like, no way, and I smashed him in the back of the legs, like making out it was an accident. But
look at that! Sounds like you invented your own hybrid sport.
Yeah, damn right.
So maybe you should pitch it to the British Football Association.
I never played ice hockey though, because I would have been Bambi. Bambi on ice, but I did play normal hockey, like on the AstroTurf, sort of grass.
Well, they do have like sledge hockey, I think it's called.
Do they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
There's sledge hockey, which is it's pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
How do you play that?
You're like on kind of like a sled type thing, and there's two pegs on you. You have two sticks, and there's
Yeah,
pegs.
you have two
Pegs.
shorter, like 3-foot sticks, right?
Really have to see this.
Yeah. It's a very good game of skill. I mean, you're sat on the sledge basically. It's got two blades on it, and you propel yourself with your short sticks. So you use your short stick to propel yourself and to shoot and stick handle. It's quite impressive. I think some of them could stick handle like under their sledge and stuff. And yeah, good.
I have to check that one out, definitely.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Have you seen the wheelchair basketball? Now that's tough.
Yeah, I've seen that before.
Because they smash into each other, they fall over, and they get back up on their own.
Well,
the hell do they do?
I mean, I took advantage of my time in London because, of course, the British are light years ahead of. Well, I mean, they were. I'm not totally up to date on this, but they were light years ahead of everybody with the Olympics. I can't think of what it's called now. But it's just
Paralympics?
Yeah, the Paralympics. I mean, that showcase that Britain did in 2012 following the Olympics. I also went to those games as well. So I saw some wheelchair basketball. I saw some rugby.
Rugby's crazy.
All great. They're all. There's. If anything, able-bodied people could learn a lot from the sacrifices that some of these athletes in the Paralympics,
I know.
Yeah, some sacrifice they take. Yeah, very impressive.
Have you ever tried it before? Just getting in like the wheelchair and do a bit of basketball.
Yeah,
I have tried wheelchair basketball also.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was pretty fun. Like.
Yeah, well, I think if you're a maritimer, I know I went to Dalhousie University in Nova Scotia, and I did the health sciences and stuff, and it was mandatory that you try like every sport. So I remember I remember doing everything. So we did basketball. I remember doing underwater hockey as well.
Oh yes, yeah.
So we had to do everything, and that was that's of course before my comedy career. But after that, in my last semester of Dalhousie, I went to Hilton Head Island and did was activities coordinator for a hotel chain down there. Oh, wow. But tried all that stuff. It's very difficult. It's much easier. It's much easier having full mobility.
You know what's fascinating about the Paralympics? It's the blind football. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Yeah, with the bell. I've played that as well.
I have played that. Yeah, I've played that one.
The bell in the ball.
Yeah, it's crazy because you're like you obviously can't see anything, and you can only hear. But they do. They dribble as well, and they know they know where the other person is. I'm like, wow,
that's crazy.
Very impressive.
I know, it's like Mr. Miyagi skills here.
Did you see? Here's a thing. Did you? Yeah, you'll be familiar with Ahmed Jalili, of course, Charlie. I'm pretty sure it was Ahmed. He last night, or maybe it was this weekend, on his Twitter. If you go to his Twitter feed, that's the reason where I saw it. But he posted up a two lads playing like head football on a ping pong type table.
Oh.
Like with a soccer ball, but with their heads. It is hugely impressive. I think Ahmed posted it on his Twitter with a saying of, "This is the best 30 seconds of sport that you'll see."
See, there's something I can do. Maybe you could do it. You could start your heading now.
Yeah, no, I'm out. There's a couple of things that at this point in my life I've decided that I don't need to do, and heading a football is one of them. I'm not interested, and skiing and heading footballs is just I think I'm done.
I've always wanted to ski, but of course I don't know if I could. I'm too much of a chicken.
Yeah, it might.
But I want to do it.
It might. No, I'll go for. I I'll do basketball and other athletics any day.
So what's the one sport you would like to do, but you're too scared to do it?
Ooh, I don't know. I you know what? I mostly have an opinion about how I missed out on individual sports when I was a kid. So it's not that I'm scared. I'm not scared to try anything once. But Nova Scotia is known as the city, Dartmouth, Nova Scotia is the city of lakes, where we've hosted the Commonwealth Games and stuff like that. And I've always been blown away. Growing up, of course, I would have had opportunities to do rowing or even like tennis and squash, because as a comedian, as I've traveled around the world, often you have opportunities to play squash with somebody, or as a comedian, you find yourself, if you have an individual discipline, when you're traveling around to different cities and stuff, it can keep you entertained. Whereas I grew up on hockey and basketball, and I grew up on all these team sports. And I've realized in my career, it's really hard to get a team game of something spontaneously going. Like if you're in Dubai for the weekend, I'm using Dubai as an example because the gigs, the shows that we do in Dubai, they're in this big recreation center, that houses all these Westerners, a lot of British people that live in Dubai and stuff. So comedians come over, they do the shows for the weekend, but there's all these squash courts there. And that's when I just started to realize, wow, individual sports would be amazing. So it's not a fear. It's more of I wish this was a skill. I don't have kids or anything, but if I was raising a kid, and if they were into sports, I think I would always suggest you should have an individual discipline as well as, I get it, son, that you love football, but you should learn to play or to row, to learn to do something that you can reach some sort of athletic catharsis on your own, instead of having to rely on a team. If that makes any sense. That's not a fear thing though, but
I like it. It's good enough. I give you a B+. That's
fair enough.
But yeah, I'm the same, because I was on sticks. I wanted to try everything. So I even tried basketball, but couldn't do that. Yeah. But I did try my best. I couldn't get him in the basket. I was too weak at the time.
I imagine it would be hard. You need a lot of strength if you're not going to be using your legs to.
Yeah, you need that oomph, don't you?
The arm strength.
But then I did rugby for some stupid reason.
How?
I don't know. They just gave me the ball, and I was like, "What am I meant to do? They're gonna get me." So I just threw it.
So you did
oh shit! I'm stuck.
You did rugby in a wheelchair?
No, on sticks.
Okay.
Even worse. At least in a wheelchair, I could have a bit more control with the ball.
Yeah,
throwing it. But on sticks, I've got to use just one hand, don't I?
I'd like to see you in the middle of a scrum in a wheelchair. That people knocking their arms and legs off of the wheels, and I don't know how it is. Like where you are, Charlie, but here, like rugby is rough, like really rough.
Oh, rugby is rough here as well.
Yeah, like.
I think in Britain, there's somebody explained it to me before though that there's two rugby disciplines. There's two types of rugby.
Yes.
One of them is posh, and one of them is very working class, I believe. I don't remember which is which, but I think in Canada, we played in the Rugby World Cup. That was in my time in Britain as well. They hosted. I don't remember what year that is, but I attended those games. Went and saw Canada play, and I remember following up on the team. And yeah, it was all made of farmers and good old tough. There was a lot of tough Canadians. It didn't strike me as a finesse thing. Even when you grow up in hockey, you can get finesse skaters. You can watch somebody do crossovers on the ice. They go around they pivots, and I'm sure the coaches stand on the side going, "Ooh, he's a pretty skater, that one."
Yeah.
And so you got your pretty skaters, and then you got your roughhouse. They'll probably see somebody with shoulders the width of a, or an ass the size that'll give him a good net front presence.
Yeah.
Him lumber around, he can hardly do a crossover, and all right, that's the guy that we're gonna put in front of the net.
The goon.
So that's all the situation. But I think in rugby, I don't know if you have finesse. I don't know if any rugby player, if any coach has ever gone, "Oh, well, he's a pretty runner."
Look at him flancing around.
Yeah, it's not high on their skill set need.
No, they are pretty thuggish, aren't they? Have you ever tried it?
Rugby? Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we had.
You tried rugby, but you can't header a ball.
Oh yeah. I'm all for contact. There's something that always just annoyed me. I mean, I had headaches as well. I still have headaches and stuff. But yeah, I mean, heading a ball is a quick way to just ruin your day.
Yeah.
And get a headache. I'll take a shoulder check anytime. I love full contact sports. The necessity of heading something is, just never.
You got to try wheelchair rugby then, because that's insane. That's definitely insane. Yeah.
All right.
A bit of shot.
Well, we're just heading up on 1 hour here.
Sorry, I was just checking your message. I was you're sending me the message finally.
So
what?
we're just about at 1 hour. So, is there anything you guys want to finish on, or are we good to end it off here?
What else have you got going on? If you, JJ.
Well, like I said, I mean, unfortunately our tour got canceled. I was supposed to be, so of course I toured with Jim Jeffries as well. So I opened for him. So unfortunately we had to cancel that tour. We were supposed to be all over America. I think we were supposed to be in Vegas last night. We're supposed to be, who knows, just name your American city, and we've had to cancel it until August. I was also, in May, I was supposed to do my own tour I was supposed to be going to Singapore and Kuala Lumpur and Malaysia, Australia. So that whole tour has been canceled. So unfortunately, a lot of stand-up cancellations, of course, but I'm keeping busy. We're trying to get this album together. So there's a lot of work in front of the computer, actually, trying to get this album together, which will hopefully be ready by early May. I mean, we were just looking at tracks last night, and which is why I mentioned that great stuff from Calgary. We probably might even have some outtakes from my last album on this album, because it's going to be such a varied collection. My producer is really excited about the set from Sweden that he's got. So he calls me really excited out of the blue and just tells me, "Oh, this joke that you did." And I got to be honest, sometimes I don't even remember. I just go, "Oh, good. I'm glad you liked it."
Yeah.
So hopefully that'll be out soon. And I was going to be giving all the proceeds to my brother works at the hospital in Halifax, Nova Scotia. He works at the QE2. Oh. I was going to be giving all the proceeds to the intensive care unit at the hospital.
Yeah.
And now because we've got a new tragedy that's just unfolded in Nova Scotia, but the charity might be more related to that. Cool. So that should be out soon. And other than that, I'm doing what every other writer, comedian is probably doing right now, which is trying to stay disciplined and write your own little passion projects.
Yeah.
And that's how you do it. That's how you try to keep busy in this insanity.
I know. That's what we're doing with these podcasts. We're just keeping busy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is just an idea. And why don't we just do a podcast and see, so because we normally do indie games, don't we?
Yeah.
Andrew. So we thought of giving this an idea while we're doing that. Keep occupied. So this is all new to us. So
yeah, it is.
Right on, fellas. Yeah, we'll keep the blood flowing.
Yeah. And we're looking up. I was looking up questions on what to ask you as well, because there's always the typical questions. So I was trying to try something different,
Well, I thought you did pretty good, man.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Sure.
Awesome.
Yeah. So Andrew, have you got anything else?
No, that's all that I have.
Nothing else?
Nothing else. Nothing else.
Well, we've done an hour and what now?
No, we're just coming up on an hour, 59 minutes, 52 seconds.
So should we just have complete silence
for
an hour?
3, 2, 1. Now it's an hour. All right.
Well, there you go. Well done, guys. My one piece of advice to you going forward would be you don't have to talk about how long you've been going.
No, this is our gimmick. We just talk about we've gone on for this long now.
With a countdown on your screen.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We made it.
There you go.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, all right, gentlemen. Well, yeah, it's nice to have a little chat with you.
All right.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. You know, we're two nobodies, and you come on to talk to us. It's great.
Well, we're all trying to stay sane, aren't we? So
yeah,
we
are.
So, right on, guys. Yeah, have yourselves a good time in the meantime.
You too. See you later.
Have a good one. Goodbye.
All right, cheers, boys. Bye.